You're listening to the Reach Right podcast, the show dedicated to helping pastors and church leaders reach people the right way. Hosted by me, Thomas Costello, and with me as always is my co-host, Ian Hyatt. We're here to help your church see more visitors and grow.
Ready to get funky.
All right, guys, welcome to the inaugural episode of the Reach Right podcast. I'm Thomas Costello, and with me, as we said earlier, is Ian Hyatt.
Hey, guys.
Today we're talking a little bit about web strategy in the time of COVID. Ian has some great things that he's been hearing in talking to our clients on the phone there, and we have some good feedback, I think, for you. We hope we can help you with some ideas on what churches are doing. So, Ian, why don't you kick us off with the first item?
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. And we're looking forward to sharing some really healthy strategy in this interesting season that we're all, of course, dealing with. Yeah, the first thing that we really wanted to address was call to actions. And this has been something that's been around in the marketing world for a long time, and that it's, of course, been important with your website as having good, clear calls to action, to drive people to where you want them to go on your website and to specific content. So before this whole crazy COVID season, probably the most important and popular call to action that we were seeing throughout the web world was a plan your visit page. Now, these are still important. A lot of churches are reopening right now, and we're going to talk about some specific strategy to still, have on a plan your visit page. But they're a little less important now with a lot of churches not meeting and a lot of people, of course, not being comfortable to go to churches. So what we've been seeing churches getting better results with here recently is having a watch live call to action, and that being extremely visible right on the home page. When they get there, that's going to be one of the first things that's on, top of mind for people that are going to be visiting your website. So making that clear, right on the opening image homepage of your website, having a button that says that, even having it up at the top right, as the eye will kind of go to the center and then go to the right, even having that in a couple of places there that is very visible in calling them to that page. So that's definitely what we're seeing as far as is one of the biggest calls to action. Second place one, which we'll talk a little bit more about, is an online giving call to action. Want to make that very visible during this time as well. But specifically on that live streaming call to action, this is something that you actually really want to, have people, you want to drive them to a page on your website. You don't want to send them to YouTube. You don't want to send them out to Facebook. You want to keep them on your website. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. But specifically for what we're going to talk about today is when you call them to action to watch live, you have their attention there. You've made it easy for them from their home, from wherever they're at, when they can't physically attend, to get encouraged with your message and to be able to start connecting more to your church. Right, Thomas?
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I think of our consulting calls, and I know how one thing we're always telling our clients is that call to action is the number one thing that we need to have on your website. So before you even design a homepage, you need to figure out what is it that I want someone to do as a result of being on here. And that thing we want them to do has totally changed since coronavirus. The thing we wanted them to do before was tell us that they were coming, plan their visit, show up on a Sunday morning. Now it's there's a variety of things of what it could be. Usually it's watch online, I would say. But if your call to action on your site is still visit us this Sunday, or here are our service times, even if you're starting to open back up, remember, there's lots of people that aren't ready to come back to church yet. And you want your call to action to be something that will affect almost everybody that gets onto the website. So we think for most people, the primary call to action on the site should be watch us online right now, assuming you're doing some kind of a live service.
Right. No, that's it. Yeah. Exactly. And even moving forward into whatever the popular phrase, the new normal will be when things simmer down, there's still going to be a huge push for virtual, and a lot of people are going to be more comfortable and are going to be somewhat used to that experience. So it's something that'll continue as a web trend moving forward too.
Awesome. No, that's good. Second one, what I saw, and I had a meeting with our church just this week, and I caught something that was really interesting. I'll tell you, the second item is we have to keep our outward focus. There is this temptation in this time of coronavirus right now, I think, to really start to focus inward, to kind of batten the hatches and pull everything in and have an inward focus on who we're trying to reach. But in my experience, churches just don't work well when they're focused on themselves. When we're focused on the people and our members, we generally don't thrive when we do that.
Right.
So I think it's as challenging as it is, we need to keep an outward focus even in the middle of this pandemic season. I know it's hard because we're used to most of our outward focus for a lot of churches is getting people to come into the walls. But maybe ask yourself this question of, when it comes to our online broadcasts, are we doing them for people that are part of our church already? Or are we doing it for people that are not yet part of our church? Keeping our outward focus. And here's the reason why, is that I've seen that when people have an outside focus and they see their church as an outward focus and people are coming to faith in Jesus, that just builds a different level of excitement. And if we don't have that, if churches don't have that kind of in an ongoing way, excitement. I don't know. I had a very good friend of mine, a pastor, who once told me that a lot of church problems get fixed when people start getting saved. And so if we are able to keep our focus outward and seeing people come to faith in the middle of this crazy time, I think that just fixes a lot of church problems, and it's something we need to do.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And we've seen that in the past, over the years, whether or not it's a downturn in the economy or some sort of whether or not it doesn't have to be a pandemic, but the churches that continue to reach out and to attract more people, those are the ones that come out of whatever rough season or trial ahead. And those are the ones that grow. Rick Warren's church was a great example of that during 2008 when the economy, the bubble hit and everything tanked. So he was one of the biggest voices that to encourage churches to continue to market and reach out, and that would pull them through. And of course, they're a great example and a testament to that. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Good. And with that, kind of leading on to the next topic with, call to action and having an outreach driven approach with your site allows people to connect. And one of the biggest things that we've seen really come up, on church websites now, as far as what's being used, are digital connect cards. And these are things that have, these digital online connection cards have been around for a little while now, but they're being used more now than ever before, because obviously with people being shut in more and not physically attending, there's going to need to be a way for your church to hear from them and connect with them. And this is something that once they've been called to action to watch a service, or to connect in some way, whether or not that's to give or, submit a prayer request form, which we can talk more about too. That's very similar to a digital connect card in a way, but allow them to, if they've been touched by your message and you've encouraged them, people's natural inclination there is to respond. So a digital connect card is going to allow them to connect with you, even if they can't do it in person right now. Once you've been encouraged, you're inviting them, to have a response to connect with the church. And then of course, a pastor or staff member can follow up with them. You've received their information and you can connect with them while in this time when you may not physically be able to connect with them, you can connect with them, after this. And what we're seeing is that churches that are doing this and they're having more ways for people to be able to respond online, they're keeping people tied in to the life of their church ongoing. And then, of course, Lord willing, at the end of this thing, these people can connect physically because you've made that impression on them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Here's what I've seen with the digital connect cards. I've seen that churches have been really good about getting connect cards from people that actually show up on Sundays. But from churches I'm talking to, almost all of them have not gotten any connect cards for the last 3 or 4 months, right? The moment that they stopped having regular services, there was no more new fresh faces or fresh cards coming in. And churches that are doing well, usually they have well thought out assimilation processes. And if you don't have new people coming into that, it gets really hard there. So what we've been coaching churches through is when you're doing your online services, make sure that you're still really careful to talk about getting people signed up on a digital Connect card the same way you would if a visitor showed up for the first time on a regular Sunday morning.
Right.
I think it's super important to do that. If you're getting 3, 4, 5 people a week, even for a small church, you're getting a handful of people that are filling out a Connect card. Well, those are people that you can start emailing, start texting. And here's another thing that I've learned from talking to some pastors out there is that if you just say, hey, fill out this Connect card, we'd really appreciate hearing from you, you're going to get 0 Connect cards.
Yeah.
You have to incentivize it some way. So I really think that most churches, I think these are valuable. If someone puts in their information, it's valuable to churches. And I think we should give some kind of an incentive for people to do that. So at our church, I know we're doing coffee cards. So $5 over at Starbucks, which is right around the corner from our church. We're giving them a gift card if they will sign up and do the digital Connect card that way.
Oh, that's great.
Just as a way to get that. And you actually see Connect cards come in when people do that. So I think digital Connect cards are going to be something super important. I think you're right on that, Ian. So
that's great.
The fourth thing we got to share today is about online assimilation, kind of in that same vein as the Connect cards. The Connect card is the first step. And then for most churches, what we're hearing is that the assimilation that they used to do, whether you have a class system like Rick Warren does, or you guys do the ARC. What's the ARC program called for assimilation? What do they call that again?
It's Next Steps.
Their next steps. Yeah, but a growth track, isn't that what they do?
Growth
the growth track. Yeah, that's it. They do
exactly
a growth track.
that's it. Yep.
So whatever your assimilation process is, what I'm seeing from most churches is that it's just kind of stopped. The assimilation has ended, and they've made this assumption that there are no new people, so we don't have anybody to assimilate right now. But if you got that Connect part, the Connect card part right, I think there are a lot of people that would love to do assimilation, even if you can't do it in person. But I think what a great way. I think Zoom and other tools are so good for doing an online assimilation class. Yeah, we'd all prefer, I get it. We'd all prefer to be face-to-face and be able to talk and shake someone's hand and give them hugs in an assimilation class or in a new members type of a class here. But this is actually pretty close. People have gotten pretty comfortable for the most part doing Zoom meetings, and any way we can do that and facilitate it online, I think it goes a long way. So I think churches should, it really is less barrier to entry. Churches should be doing more assimilation classes right now. If you're getting new people coming in because you're doing the digital Connect cards and those kinds of things, assimilation is still really important.
Exactly. No, that is it. As far as a strategy to continue to grow. And that ties in a lot with what you were saying about keeping your outward focus too, because obviously if you're getting, churches are seeing a lot of online traffic now and growth. So they don't want to just engage these people and let it stop there. You got to have a plan and you got to take initiative with assimilation for sure. And it kind of getting back to some of the ways we get these folks engaged before we work on the assimilation. We said we'd come back to the Plan Your Visit page that was extremely popular before the pandemic hit here. It still is very important. We're seeing now for churches that are reopening, this page has actually come back to the forefront. As a matter of fact, for some churches, the call to action on their website is either to watch live or plan your visit. For both of those two individuals, if they're going to choose to physically come or just watch online. But the Plan Your Visit page now on a website's taken a little bit of a turn and a shift as far as strategy compared to where it used to be. Before, it was all about what to expect on a Sunday and that we're going to greet you and we're going to get your kids checked in and, come wearing whatever you want to wear and all of that stuff is still good to address to a bit. But now where it really can help a church is people want to know that it's a safe environment. You've kept things, sanitized. They want to know, if they're bringing their kids, what's that going to look like for safety for them and where they're going. And I think on these pages too, being able to have a welcome video greeting from the pastor that kind of personally addresses all these things shortly to them, making people feel comfortable coming. And here's the thing, if they feel comfortable coming, not only because they're going to be welcomed and have a great experience, but knowing that it's a safe environment for them and that the church is, fulfilling all of the measures that are being recommended here during this time, Then from there, you call them to action to fill out a form to let you know that they're coming. And people were filling out these forms before, and it helped to kind of greet these people ahead of time, maybe let them know you're excited to see them on a Sunday. But now it helps the church even not only do that, but prepare for the amount of visitors that they're getting, which is really important during this time when you got to take all these safety measures.
Right. Absolutely. I'm seeing, and you're probably seeing this too in the churches you're talking to, Ian, that so many churches are even limiting the amount of space that they can have. So the plan your visit has almost turned into like a reservation system.
Right.
We all loved it, right? When most local theaters moved from the first come, first serve model to the reserve your seat online model, right?
Oh, yeah.
Nobody resisted that. Everybody was saying, wow, this is this is fantastic. And so for us to be able to take a cue from that in the church and having people, it's obvious people are already used to that. People are used to reserving their seats in places. I think in the coronavirus season that we're in, it makes total sense. So maybe making a slight shift on that plan your visit section from being about having a good first experience to actually securing your spot, I think that would make a world of difference.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're seeing that already with a lot of the churches that we're helping for sure. And it makes really good sense right now and makes people feel more comfortable. So last but not least on really what we wanted to touch on today, it's always in the back of everyone's mind is online giving, of course. And the interesting thing was we were seeing before this pandemic, the last data we saw was that in the U.S., about 45% of all church giving was already online. Now, that number we can only guess has skyrocketed past 50% in this time that we're in. So it's even more critical now. And the crazy thing is we've been hearing from even, I personally, Thomas, been speaking with churches that are maybe some of the older traditional churches that had some reservations about that. And now they absolutely know that they have to have it to keep their giving coming in and allowing people to give easily there. So we've seen really a rise in churches, getting a good online giving system in place, and now getting back to website strategy with that. It's not something you want to be obnoxious and throw in people's face, but you want to make it very easy. That is one of the natural things that people will want to do after they're encouraged by a message is to respond with giving. To respond with giving back, based on being encouraged there spiritually. So it's something you want to make very visible on the website, very easy and user-friendly. And of course, having a good, solid, secure website in place is going to make people feel comfortable with that. But we're definitely seeing that is definitely on the rise now more than ever before.
This is going to be hard to say, and I think a lot of people might push back, but I think that online giving, and specifically probably income per viewer or some of that is going to be an important metric for churches to really watch going forward. Listen, we've been saying for a decade probably that butts in seats or attendance on a Sunday morning isn't the right metric for us anymore because it doesn't really matter, but we've been saying that, but still every single pastor really seems to care about how many people show up on a normal Sunday. We even ask that when someone fills out one of our forums to talk with us online, the normal question we ask is, what's your total worship attendance? Because that kind of gives us a feel of the size and scope of a church, but that is changing. And I think that it is important that churches really consider what they're measuring. And I know that there's some resistance to this because there have been some abuses, obviously, with churches and really making money the main important focus of everything. But I don't care how you slice it. Measuring income is probably part of a way we measure someone's spiritual engagement. People that are engaged with the church are going to be more likely to give than those that are not engaged with the church. Now, that's not to say that, churches that have the most money have the most engaged people. That's not necessarily the case. But I think what churches should be watching is, are we seeing an increase or a decrease in the giving per member or giving per viewer or giving per attendance? And so I think making sure that online giving is front and center on your site is super important. Making sure that, again, we never want to make it the main thing. It shouldn't be your primary call to action, right? You don't put give online as the main flashing thing on someone's page, but making sure it's obvious and that people can follow through on that is super important. To what you were saying before, Ian, I've been in contact with some online giving providing companies out there. We do a lot of work with some of them. And I have heard that just their amount of donations that they're processing are going through the roof. I've seen some speculation that it's close to 70% of the income of churches right now is coming in online, which makes sense, right? I mean, other than licking a stamp and putting it in an envelope, how are you going to get your money to your church in this season here? So now that might drop a bit because I think that there's some people that have a spiritual or almost a worship attachment to physically giving something. But, I think that online giving is obviously here to stay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the way I've been tithing and giving for years now. And honestly, you can say a prayer and worship before clicking the give button on a website. And I, in my personal opinion, there's no difference. But yeah, people will still have their preferences, but it's really a no-brainer these days. And yeah, on the front lines, consulting with as many churches as I've been consulting with, I've been hearing that same feedback, Thomas, just that the online giving has skyrocketed, and it's really helped churches to have it strategically placed on a great website, see some good results with it.
Awesome. Well, that sounds good, Ian. We'll leave it there for this week. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for listening to the Reach Right podcast. We hope this episode will help you reach people the right way. Looking for more resources for your church? Check us out online at reachrightstudios.com. If this episode has been helpful to you, it would mean the world to us if you would rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Ready to get funky.